Every who down in Who Newville liked the holidays a ton, but where to get great prices on gifts, they had no idea. None. They searched and they searched for great gifts under $25. Gifts for spouses and friends and even their toddlers. When suddenly one who shouted, Walmart has what you want, knowing they have Lego, Tree Hut, and no prices to flaunt. So they enjoy the holiday season as who's often do. Cheering and shouting, Walmart has incredible gifts. Who knew? Find gifts they'll love under $25 at Walmart.
Oh, Hilton stay, your beds are soft and cozy. No lumpy couch, no stiff futon, no shower line at crack of dawn. Oh, Hilton stay.
When you want holiday comfort you can count on, it matters where you stay. Enjoy comfortable rooms and friendly service when you stay with Hilton instead. Save up to 25% this season when you book with Hilton. Hilton for the stay. Terms apply.
Welcome to Her Extraordinary Life by Design, where we celebrate women who are shaping their lives one extraordinary day at a time. I'm your host, Leslie Gaudet, self-care coach for women who are ready to make self-care a priority to support them in life and business. Every week, I'll be speaking with inspiring women from various walks of life who will share their personal journeys and will discover how they have fearlessly carved their own paths as business owners, passionately pursuing their dreams and creating a meaningful impact on their communities. So let's get started. Hello, and welcome to Extraordinary Life by Design podcast. I'm your host, Leslie Gaudet, and today we're doing things a little bit differently. Typically on Fridays, you hear from me as a solo podcaster, and I'm giving you my perspective on the things that I teach around. But I was recently inspired to bring today's topic to you based on another podcast that I was listening to, where the host was speaking with someone, her guest, around the idea of having it all. And I wanted to bring this topic to you today from not only my lens, but also the lens from two incredibly impactful, powerful women that I've gotten to know and get their perspectives as well. So today, I'm joined by Diane Konkin, who is the founder and CEO of Advanced Mind Health, a no-repeat client therapy practice specializing in helping high-profile professionals eliminate self-sabotage, intrusive emotions, and substance habits in only 1 to 2 sessions with a 99% success rate. She works with clients internationally who experience extraordinary breakthroughs through comfortable yet powerful transformational therapy based on the latest research in neuroscience. We're also joined by Sharlene Styles, the founder of Pure Natural Health and Wellness. She guides women to understand their metabolism, balance their hormones, support their nervous system, and recognize the habits and thoughts that shape their actions so that feeling energized, confident, and clear becomes who they are naturally. These two powerhouses were part of my recent September series around mindfulness and mental health and wellness, and I'm so glad to welcome them back today. So with that being said, Diane, Sharlene, welcome back to the show.
Thank you so much. Great to be here. I echo Diane.
Yeah. So as I'd recently said, I wanted to talk about this topic, this concept of having it all, because I feel like sometimes the thought of it can be really exciting on one hand, or it can be really daunting and scary. And I also thought that although I have a perspective on what it means for me, I wanted to have you both join me around this topic so that we could discuss it roundtable-like to get each of our perspectives, because the holidays, are right around the corner. And the theme for this month for me is empowering life stories. And I felt it would be a really great addition for this series that honors the emotional reality so many women face this time of year, and how the idea of having it all can either spark that encouragement or fuel doubt, especially when I know that I can actually put myself in that second category of the pressures, right? To measure our worth by how many boxes we've checked, the guilt when things don't go exactly as planned. And again, the question of what does having it all really mean for me if it's not what the world traditionally says it is? So that's what today is about. So first, I want to talk about what this time of year can bring up for us emotionally, especially for women who are high achievers. They're fully self-aware. They're hard on themselves, especially when it comes to the pressures that I've talked about. And so with that being said, let's start this off. So for each of you, what does this time of year bring up for you personally or for the women that you support? And why is it so hard, do you feel, to honor what did happen when the plan didn't go as expected? So, Diane, why don't you go first? I'd love to get your perspective.
Sure. Well, this time of year really is like an end of the year report card. A lot of women, like you said, feel that pressure to look back and see if they've completed everything that they've done. But you also have to think about, the whole comparison. Why did they make that list so long? What is on the list that they feel like they failed, or what did they procrastinate doing that they might not have had their hearts in it? And the other thing is we are wired mentally to focus on what's wrong. That's just simply human nature. It's how our mind helps us to survive, or so it thinks, right? And for a lot of women, it's not the thought of what I didn't get done, but I should have been a different version of myself. This is performance guilt. I should have been different. I should have been better. I should have done better. I should have worked harder. Like you're saying, that pressure. But why do we do that? Right? This is the key. So it's really less about a list and more about an identity. This is where real self-awareness comes in, because when people are hard on themselves, self-critical, whose voice is that? Is that their own, or is that something that they were told once? Is that an expectation that was put on them? You have to be this in order to be approved by society. So yes, exactly. That's where the self-awareness and power comes in. And my advice would be to reframe your situation. So you're not beating yourself up. You didn't fail the year. You revealed some truths about you or what you want. Right? So, like I said, if you didn't get stuff done, ask yourself why. Is it because you really didn't want to, and because you didn't have your heart into it, because it wasn't, worth your time or effort or energy? Clear the negative vocabulary as well. Don't beat yourself up. When you catch yourself, going, oh, that was stupid. I should have, right? Then no, you need to reframe that for your mind, because your subconscious mind, which drives 95 to 97% of how we think and feel and act, learns from our visualizations and the words we say to ourselves. So if we keep telling ourselves we're not enough, your mind buys back into that concept. So take a break, step back, and just see what you need to change. That's it.
I love that. Sharlene?
Yeah, it's so interesting. I probably have, some of the same kind of points as Diane. So I do apologize in advance if some of it echoes, but perhaps comes across in a different way. For me, what comes up at this time of year and with so many of the women that I support is this, as you'd mentioned, Diane, an instinctive pull to what didn't happen. I think when we set out at the beginning of the year, we think, oh, we have all of this time, and a year feels like a long time until the year comes to a close, and it goes by so fast. And our mind goes automatically to the gaps. Like we're scanning for the negative, what didn't happen. And that's not a personal flaw with any of us. That's biology. That's simply how our brains are wired. They're built to scan for the negative, to keep us safe. So what's missing, what's not working. And if we don't notice that that's our default mode, it's easy to step into the thought like, I should just be further ahead by now. And we get hard on ourselves and this comparison, and particularly of, how we started the year with our view. So I see, and I do this myself as well, women can very easily overlook what they actually moved through. Like if you think about all the things that happen in 365 days, all the emotions, all the thoughts, like it's a lot that we process as a human. Being a human is a lot, right? Especially in today's world. So we can easily override the challenges that we've endured, the obstacles that we've overcome, the growth perhaps that they didn't even plan for as part of their goal setting at the beginning of the year, and how they kept just showing up and getting through life. Like that to me is a huge win right now in this current world. And I think what makes it hard to honor what didn't happen can be multi-layered. There's a lot of variables that feed into that. Like we set these expectations for ourselves. And when life unfolds a little differently than what we had planned or visualized, we forget to acknowledge all the other things that came along with it, the benefits, the lessons, the unexpected wins, the unexpected adventures, the relationships, like all of the little kind of micro wins that get wrapped up along with it. And I also think that we barely pause long enough to actually take a true look. So we when we intentionally look for what went well, and I think as women, we have a hard time doing this, right? And I don't mean to sound sexist. Men are they're much more inclined to like brag and tell you about their wins and what went right. We don't tend to do that. So, when we look at the progress, maybe the small wins that I talked about, our own resilience, I think we can all attest that we've probably come far more than what we actually expected. So there's usually plenty of evidence, to show and give us examples that we kept going, we kept learning, we kept adjusting things, and we held things together. So I think that counts more than what we actually give credit for or what we care to admit. And honestly, we're our own harshest critics. We wouldn't speak to anyone else with the thoughts or what happens in our own internal terrain in our mind. So we speak to ourselves in ways that we would never speak to someone else. So I think one of the best things that we can do is actually celebrate our wins, which doesn't come innate to us as women. We can kind of get caught up in the next goal and not really acknowledge what we did, what we worked through, and where we are. So yeah. Does that answer the question? Or is there any?
Yeah. No, I do love both of your answers. One of the things that really kind of stood out for me too was it feels like it's all identity based. And I know for me specifically, I can so relate to this because of the what I didn't do, what does it say about me, and the direction that I say I'm going, that I tell other people that I'm, stepping into. And what does that say about me if I haven't finished these particular milestones that I've now put out into the universe, I've said out loud to other people? So the boxes that didn't get checked, the to-dos that didn't get finished, maybe some of the tasks that we had on our list that we never started, that we said were important, and not realizing that not everything, even though it's in the plan, is going to stay within the plan because plans can change. It's just having that plan to help keep you on track so that you're not going all over the map. And you can change things as you evolve. But for me, I think I can really relate to this because for me, it did come down to, well, who am I? What does it say about me if I'm not where I say I'm supposed to be right now, if I didn't finish everything? How can I not just honor the things that I didn't finish, because maybe those things, if I look back, I could say, oh, you know what, that actually doesn't fit anymore, and be okay and with gratitude release it. But also say, like, as you were saying, which is something I really feel so important, which I think we forget to do a lot of the time because we're moving so fast, is to stop and actually acknowledge and honor those little milestones, those little steps, those little things that we can say, oh, I didn't do all of this, but I did I did ABC. They were little, but they actually opened my eyes up to a new perspective that I never saw, I never thought about, that actually maybe changed a step in my plan that I have. But not looking at it that way, and I know I can just say from personal experience, that's just how I had been, where I would just look at, like, okay, this is my plan. Oh, well, I'm not doing everything that I said I wanted to do, that I set out to do, and beating myself up for it. And you're both right. We say stuff to ourselves. We're so mean that we wouldn't dare say out loud to anybody else. Or even if we said it out loud to our friends about ourselves, we would never say that about someone else and say that to them as if it was their truth. But we're so good at owning it as our own. So I really love both of your answers. Again, being wired mentally to focus on what's wrong. We do live in a world of, when you look at the news, anything that you see on social media, what is it focusing on? All the negative stuff that's going on in the world. I mean, there are people out there that are trying to spread good news, but good daily news saying like, oh, this happened, that's positive, and this happened, that's positive. But most people focus on what's wrong, what's the negative. And so I love that you both brought that up. Diane, I love what you had said. It's not what I didn't do. I should have, or the I should have been this, or I should have done better, but more about instead of focusing on that, looking at it like you didn't fail this year. You're actually, where were you, as we are in November, 10 months ago, and where are you today? There's so much growth if we can just look over the year, and there's so much growth. And I've actually worked with clients that way and said, hey, when we first started working together, I want you to go back to the day before we started working together. And I want you to write out all of those things again that you told me that weren't working out for you. Now I want you to write what's actually happened, what's progressed, what's evolved. And it's so amazing when people can actually say, oh, yeah, I did this and I did that. It's because we're so good at glossing over and moving on to the next. So anyways, I don't want to take up too much time on this, but I wanted to say thank you both for your responses. I think it's really important. And I think I have that a follow-up to that, which I think is really important because as you both said, we can focus on the negative. But what would you say to that woman who's actually tempted to write off the year?
I kind of tied that into my answer before about reframing the situation so you're not beating yourself up. But I mean, beating yourself up is, the worst thing you can do. I mean, and the other thing is it is a real skill to stop that. It took me a while. I mean, I would do little things, right? Like I say to my clients, like when I left the house without my keys and then I went to go lock the door and they were inside and I'd go, oh, that was stupid. But no, you have to catch yourself when you say those things, or how come you didn't get that done today, right? Listen, I've been trying to start to write my book for about 3 years now, and this year was supposed to be the year. But other things just became a priority. And I thought, okay, well, it's there. And when I don't have these other priorities, I'm definitely going to take a dive into it. But do I feel bad? No. Do I feel like I'm going to beat myself up? No, because I still had a great year. Did I learn things? Did I fail at some things? Yeah. But I mean, I am a performance or therapeutic performance coach and therapist. So I've mastered these things myself, which is really great. But it takes time. It's a skill that needs to be developed and anybody can do it. So.
Yeah, I love that. And I know that you both did say like some things that you would do, but the reason why I asked the question again, because I know it can be really super easy for us to say, oh, this year didn't go to plan. Well, there's always next year, which is right around the corner, right? So that's really why I wanted to ask this question again, just to get another deeper perspective on it. So Sharlene, did you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, and perhaps to just extend onto your point, Leslie, it's only November, right? We still have a full month away. Like if we were looking at this kind of, looking out point or cliff, and it was January 1st, and we think, oh, all the things we can do in a month. Like we have a different kind of energy about that, which is kind of interesting, right? And it's, forgive me for saying this, but the calendar year is kind of bullshit anyways, right? Like we're following this man-made time capsule. Of course, it's in rhythm with our seasons and stuff, but yeah, just because it's the beginning of the year doesn't change anything differently than perhaps at the beginning of December, right? I don't think we talk about maybe that enough, right? There's still lots that can happen in 1 month. We don't have to actually write it off. And I think to the person who is trying to just say, yeah, we'll start over in January, like I didn't kind of work out and I'll start fresh, I would first of all invite them to consider that why not start fresh now? That you don't have to wait to any specific magical date to do that. And then perhaps like just pause before you close the book on this year and looking at it from a clear perspective with clear eyes and kind of not the rush critical lens that we tend to look through with our brain, right? That survival brain, which is the negative, looking for the things that are wrong, to flip it and look at the positive, like, what we talked about earlier, what you actually did navigate. Like, you set out the year perhaps last year with a direction. And, you know, maybe if you didn't even leave the launch pad or leave the home base, there's things that you've learned, I'm sure, that you've navigated, that you've held, that you've changed within yourself, perhaps different views or points of view. So I think all of those things matter too, even if they didn't show up like on a checklist. There was exercise I started. I kind of got away from it, and periodically I weave it back in. But this is something I started a number of years ago, actually during COVID when the world was weird. The world is still weird. But I started a brag journal. And this was kind of to my earlier point. As women, we don't tend to celebrate our wins, where men do it so much more easily and effortlessly. Writing down things that give our brain evidence of wins, right? Like some days just getting dressed and showered is a win. Some days getting just the dishes done or the house clean is a win. Like I would say looking at it through those lenses, like look for all the things that went right, and you can find all kinds of evidence, I would say, that when you shift this kind of energy, you're going to give yourself credit and step into feeling powerful and not defeated. So that's where I think we can gather and gain this inspiration and momentum. And that's where I think the powerful, empowering energy can come from.
Yeah, I love that. I love both your answers. I love the idea of catching your language because I think that's so important, which I know, Diane, this is something you and I have actually talked about personally for myself, catching your language. And then I love the fact that you said that you want to write your book, but it doesn't make it wrong that it didn't happen now. And I think that's important too. It's like we always feel like, oh, well, if it didn't happen, it means I'm a failure. No, it just means that it's not in alignment with where I'm at right now and it's okay. And then I love that how you talk about, Sharlene, that starting fresh now doesn't mean you have to wait till January 1st because it's the new year. And that means like the clock is set back to zero and now that's when you can begin again. No, I think taking wherever you're at now and starting over fresh is important. And I love that. So thank you so much. So I want to shift gears into the reason for this episode, which is the idea of having it all. And what does that even mean? So I'm going to go first on this one because I feel like for me, this is actually rung a little bit, I guess, deep for me. And one of the things I noticed, so the question will be like, what have you noticed about how women define success and how do you think that definition gets distorted? And I feel like for me, in this particular question, I feel that women are defining success based externally, not on what their own merits are, but what everyone else sees and then maybe has an opinion on. So if you have lots of clients, if you have a thriving practice or a thriving business, you have a team, if you make lots of money, and other people are looking at it saying, oh, she's successful. And so and they're looking at her saying, oh, well, she's married, she's got kids. Look, she's got a home, they go on vacations, she has a thriving business. They are looking at externally for that validation that that's how success can be measured rather than life being in alignment and what your choice for life is. So for me as an example, I always like to use myself as an example because I feel like it's important to say like, I really truly relate to this is I live in Mexico right now. This was part choice and not part choice. So I love it here. Don't get me wrong. I love the people, I love the culture. The weather is incredible. But part of this was due to personal reasons that we're here. And so when I started looking at, okay, well, what does that even mean then? Am I having it all? Because part of my having it all was being able to travel and spend time in other countries and learning new cultures and meeting new people. So is this part of that success? And do I have to add more to it in order to be feeling that I have it all? Well, right now for me, going a little bit into that deeper question of having it all, my personal definition now for that is having it all is whatever makes me feel good right now, where I'm in alignment with my life today. So I may not have everything that I'm aspiring to achieve, but right now what I have is everything and more than I ever dreamed possible. As I said, living in a country that I can now call home, that I wake up every morning and I see a beautiful bougainvillea outside of my window and trees and birds and the sounds of animals and just the people, the culture, everything. For me, I feel like I have it all. And it doesn't mean that I have to have all of these other things that I'm aspiring to mean that for me. It's where I'm at in this season of life. So, with that being said, I'm going to let you go first, Sharlene. What have you noticed about how women define success? How do you think they define it? How that definition can get distorted? And then follow that up with your personal definition of having it all.
Yeah, I love it. And perhaps again, just to echo your sentiment, Leslie, the same thing. I think most women actually they don't choose their own definition of success. They inherit it, from, to your point, from our culture, from our family, from comparison, like societally. And usually it's all, like you said, a list of external milestones that they're think they're supposed to hit, right? Whether it's the family, the career, the relationship, the body, the balance, the home, the productivity, all of that. And we tend to, from that external perspective, we can measure ourselves against others' expectations based on something that we've learned and that was handed to us. So, and that can come even with like what we're supposed to look like, right? And that changes over time. If you look back through history, anyhow, it's all things that are changeable and that were offered to our brain. So I think that's where most of it gets distorted. The external, exactly what you said, becomes something outside of us and something that we're trying to keep up with or to chase instead of something that we're actually connected to. And like exactly what you said, Leslie, what is aligned with us and what matters in our current life, right? As even we're talking about this being the end of the year, we're a different person today, the date of this recording, than we were on January 1, right? So our internal measurements may change if we look at it from that perspective versus the external. So what that lets us do when we get into that inherited kind of viewpoint is we end up feeling like we're falling short all the time, right? So rather than if we're really reflecting on what true growth really looks like or feels like to us, it's going to be completely unique, I would suspect, to each person. I do imagine there's going to be some similarities or, overlapping pieces, but I don't think there is a traditional checklist, right? What we find most meaningful. And to be honest, most of the women that I work with, honestly, they're badasses. They're productive. They're incredible. And if they can see their own beauty the way that we from the exterior can see inside and their own power, their own magnitude, like radiance, it's pretty wild. I think we don't give ourselves enough credit. And then internally, it's interesting because I talk to women on such a much deeper level about what's really going on in their minds and in their hearts. And so many of us are feeling like we're falling short. So for me, my definition of having it all, of course, it's evolved like you too, Leslie, over the years. It used to be about, achieving more, gaining more, investing more, bigger portfolios. I was a financial advisor. So if you can imagine, material world was a pretty big part of my life. And then also for me as a businesswoman back in that time is like trying to not only show, but actually trying to keep it all together. Like that was part of the idea and vision of success. So for me now, things are much more simpler and far more aligned. And I think that is my definition of having it all. It, living in a way for me that supports my energy, my health, my own natural rhythms, my peace, like that is of utmost importance for me right now. So that means choosing what matters and letting go of the pressure to keep up or what everyone else thinks is successful. So even if it doesn't go along with societal norms, for me, it's feeling grounded in myself and not spreading myself thin or performing and showing up, present, clear, authentic. So now it's less about accumulation for me and way more about alignment and not doing everything, but more about doing what truly feels like true, aligned. And even if it doesn't fit with the masses definition of having it all.
Yeah, I love that. Diane?
Yeah, I think we're all on the same page here. I think there is a huge misconception that having it all means doing it all. because, a lot of us think success comes from a checklist rather than a feeling. And the more we try to get through our checklist, the more we often lose touch with ourselves. We start to feel disconnected. We start to feel that, who am I? What do I want? And then ask yourself whose checklist that is, because many women think it's theirs, but often those checklists are built from, like Sharlene said, inherited or dictated roles, society standards, timelines, whether that's for work or family or personal. And so you have to kind of look at what's working and what's not. And remember, the praise yourself is so important. Neurologically, praise will build us up and criticism withers us. So the more we criticize ourselves, be extremely careful about that, because your mind is learning, your mind is listening to everything that you're saying. And a lot of times, like, my clients will come to me saying, I want to do this, but I have a block. There's resistance, right? And it's something healthy that's going to make them grow. But again, our minds are wired in a certain way to keep us away from what's unfamiliar and keep us in the familiar. We all call this our comfort zone. But we all know that we can also stretch it a little bit too, and then do what we think is daring and go, oh, that wasn't so bad. I mean, we've all of my clients have said this. I go, oh, well, I tried this and I went, hey, it worked fine. Nothing bad happened. I didn't die. I didn't get hurt. And, so it's really women checking boxes rather than checking in with themselves. And that's the number one thing, because it's a feeling. It's like, what is in alignment with me? What is true and right for me? And that's self-trust. So
Yeah. And how for you do you feel like that your own personal definition for yourself, though, for having it all? Like, how is that for you? Let's just say, check this year, where you started
yeah.
January 1st to like where you are today.
Well, for me, it means like being on a growth path. And it doesn't mean that I have to be on it fast. It doesn't mean I can't take breaks. It means knowing what's in my heart, what I want out of my life. And it means having choice and agency and self-trust. I worked with a client yesterday who was frozen in making choices. And she couldn't even choose between two dates of her session that I was giving her. And we broke through that pretty easily, but she had been trying for years. And, it's really the ability for me, it's the ability to know and say, I trust myself. This matters to me and this doesn't. And for years, I wasn't able to do that. No, I wasn't even close. I remember thinking, oh, they say you're supposed to know who you are and what I want. I'm like, what do I want? I have no idea, because I spent decades caring for my late husband who struggled with depression and addiction. So I was supporting him as much as I can. And we support our families. We support our coworkers, right? We do everything except for ourselves. But when we switch that and we include ourselves and we trust ourselves, we know that we're enough. We know we were born valuable and worthy. We know that we have so much to offer this world. We know we have innate value and nothing can change that, nothing external, right? I say to my clients, if you took $100 bill and you stepped on it, you yelled at it, you locked it in a closet, you ignored it, you neglected it, would it be worth any less than $100? No. And we're the same way. Nobody can take our value away. And knowing that and feeling it and believing it, that is freedom. And
Yeah.
having it all only works when the all belongs to you.
Oh, I love that. I love how you frame that. When it belongs to you, and not anyone else, right? Because
No.
a lot of the time we do stuff for other people. So I love how you framed that. So thank you so much, both of you, for your answers. So final question. I want to discuss about rituals, resets, realignment, whatever you want to call it. And I'd love for each of you to share. And so personally, And I think I'll go, Charlene, in opposite direction. How are you personally choosing to close out this year that feels true to you? And what are you giving yourself permission to carry or let go of as the year comes to a close?
Oof, okay. Yeah, so this is the lens in which I run pretty much everything through, like a day, a week, an event, a situation, and I will do the same with this year. I haven't done it in completion yet, but my framework is I ask myself 3 questions. What worked? Like, what went well? So that gets me to focus on the positive. What I like to repeat or, pay homage to. What didn't work? And that gives me opportunity to look at gaps or, you know, just noticing how I would change things. And that leads to the third question. The third question is, what would I do differently? So whether that's a day, a week, a month, a year, or an event, what that allows me to do is look through the lens of, if I repeat this scenario, how am I going to do it differently and how would I change it? Because I think that's the issue, right? That's what keeps us stuck. Without learning from our situation or our experience, without making these changes, we just end up repeating the same year or week or month or whatever over and over again. So with non-judgmental lens, I ask myself those 3 questions. So what worked well, like what went well, what didn't work, and what would I do differently? So I will run my system through that. And I'm sorry, the other part of your question was,
What are you giving yourself permission to carry or let go of as the year comes to a close?
yeah, what am I giving myself permission to carry or let go of? Yeah, personally, I'm going to allow myself to carry still what is important to me, what is aligned, and to let go of this sense of for perhaps feeling incomplete or not done. I tend to the way that I like to look at this, and I don't know, maybe everyone else does, maybe nobody does, I don't know. I tend to look at the beginning of the year, I set out a GPS and it's like a direction. I'm choosing a direction. I'm choosing a direction in life in which I want to steer my car towards. And sometimes that car takes some little detours. And, if I'm going to drive to Mexico to come see you, Leslie, I'll put my GPS
Yes.
target to arrive in Mexico. And sometimes we're laser focused on a big goal or big direction and we have momentum and we want to get there quickly. I see that with a lot of clients myself. And there's others, and myself included, and there's other times and other phases and seasons of life where you're more relaxed about getting to your destination. And yet we're still kind of going in the same general direction. So that's really what I'm going to be carrying forward and looking through the lens of, and also assessing, is Mexico still really where I want to go? Right? If I'm in Florida and that wasn't part of the plan, do I actually just want to stay here in Florida or do I want to continue on to Mexico? I hope that makes
Yeah,
sense
I love it. I love it.
in an analogy kind of way rather than getting into the nitty-gritty.
Yeah, no, I love that. Diane?
I close the year by doing less on purpose. I focus on reconnecting to what feels right, what went right, and what I want next year based on what I enjoyed most about the year. What I learned about myself, what new opportunities. I'm a person, why not dream big, right? Where's the most successful I can see myself? What does that look like? And I've had that vision in my mind for years. And then it's like, oh, then it started to happen. What? I never thought that would happen. Again, our visualizations and what we say to ourselves, those words and images, they are like a blueprint for our subconscious mind to follow, because we all know our minds don't know the difference between reality and our visualizations, our imagination. So when you imagine yourself in a place, it's your mind's job to make that happen, to influence you, to influence your decisions and your thoughts and feelings to make that happen. And when you learn to master that, I tell you, it's like life changing. And my reset is choosing to connect with what and how I want to feel rather than do. And then so I can act on that purpose. what can I do to make me feel like that? What did I most enjoy about that? Or what did I most enjoy about my year? Okay, how do I get more of that? And then I honor my pace. I don't put deadlines for myself. I never have. I know a lot of business coaches are like, oh, what are we going to get done in this quarter? It's like, screw that. I'm like, I work from my heart. I'm a very heart-centered person. I'm not fluffy. I'm very direct and very concise, but, I work with what works for me, not everybody else. And I release what I discovered didn't align with myself. Like something that I had planned, but it's like, I don't know about that. And then I discover something completely new. Like Sharlene said, the unexpected wins, the unexpected adventures that you're like, oh, that is really great. That brought me a lot more joy than I thought it was going to. And so let me have more of that. So I release what didn't bring me joy, what didn't make me happy, what wasn't in alignment with what I want, the path that I want. And I carry over things that I still look forward to doing, but it wasn't right at the time. Like my book, for example. Like this year in January, it was the first time I had a plan, like looking back at the end of next year. It was the first time I didn't have a plan as to how I saw the year shaping up. And that was a surprise to me because I always can see it. But when I look, because I'm a visual person, so when I look at the calendar, I saw it till about March or April. And then the rest of the days just went like one big white blob. And I thought, that is so strange. And then in April, I discovered I had a health issue that I needed to focus on. Nothing serious, but just something that took my time and attention. And that it did take my time and attention for months. But because I'm always flex with my time, it was okay. It wasn't dread. It was, hey, I caught this and now it's going to be great. And once I did focus on it, when I started to come back into my business, the universe kept that abundance flowing like crazy when I had my energy back and I was ready. So I'm always curious about life, what life is going to give me versus what my plan is. So you can make a plan, but you know what they say, like, yeah, you can make a plan, but the universe is just going to laugh at it and, make happen whatever it does anyway. But if your plan is in alignment with what your heart and what your purpose is, it happens much more quicker. And to listeners, I would say, I would bring it back to self-trust. I would ask yourself, what would I choose if I trusted myself completely? What would I choose if it were up to me? Or if I knew I couldn't fail? Or if money were no option? I mean, for me, if I feel a little bored throughout the year, which sometimes happens or often happens, even in the busiest times, because I've trained my mind to thrive in change. And when those moments happen, I think, what would both scare me and excite me at the same time? Like, I can't believe I'm going to do that. Like that something that just excites you and makes you feel alive. And then ask yourself, what's the one small thing I can do to set that in motion? And then do that, even if it's saying to yourself, what the hell? Like, what do I have to lose? Right? And even the thought of it will completely make your day. And the visualization and the words make it happen. And these questions force a woman to pause and check in with herself and choose from her truth rather than, as Sharlene was saying, rather than panic or pressure or autopilot. Because the autopilot are those cycles that we get into from all of our learned experiences, our habits, but they all can be interrupted and changed. And by asking yourself these questions and really reflecting on the feeling, they pull you back into your power instantly and put you on a growth path. And it's exciting. So.
Yeah, I love that. I love both of your answers. And for me, I think I would say I'm learning to close this year just as, you talked about self-trust and just being able to just say I'm good with where I'm at right now and honoring the growth because there's been so much growth this year. And I could either just overlook that and think, well, yeah, but I didn't do this and I'm not where I want to be. And it's like for me, something I've really had to remember, something I used to say a lot was that we are on a journey and there's no destination for our journey. It's just our life is ever evolving. And so I've just learned that, especially this year, especially where I'm at today, being okay and happy and grateful for the growth that's happened over this year, the lessons I've learned, the people I've met, the incredible conversations I've had this year, and allowing that to fuel me for the present moment and what's next, and being open to what's next. So, one of the things I'm giving myself permission to carry with me is just that excitement and that joy from all of that I'm able to celebrate and to let go of control and pressure supposed to look like, and not say like, oh, I'm starting a brand new year starting January 1st. And so this is my plan for the entire year. And if I don't meet these milestones, I'm not going to allow myself to get into that position. I'm going to give myself permission to let that go and just allow for the stuff, the things, the exciting new pathways that will be revealed. So I really am excited to finish out this year strong. But I just really want to be able to look at my journey as something to be really proud of and carry that forward with that excitement and that joy. So ladies, thank you so very much, both of you, for spending time with me today and bringing this topic to life in a way that I knew was going to be really good. I just knew it instinctively. And I'm glad we got to bring our own perspective and our own unique way of what it means to finish our year with checked and or unchecked boxes, looking at sometimes what we can make it mean about ourselves if we allow it. And then I also love talking about the idea of what having it all means to each of us and closing out this conversation, really grounding in how we're each personally choosing to close out the year and preparing ourselves for the new, like for what's next. So thank you so very much, both of you, for spending time with me today. I really love both of you so much.
My pleasure. Nice to be here.
Yes, thanks, Leslie. Anytime. Yeah, you're a powerhouse, so always happy to be connected with you.
Thank you. And
You
to
know
our
that.
listeners, thank you so much. And to our listeners, if you'd like to connect with Diane and Sharlene and learn more about the powerful work that they are both doing, you can find their contact information in the show notes. I just want to remind you again that as you close out the year, I hope that you'll remember that having it all was never meant to be a checklist. It's a feeling, a rhythm, a truth that you get to define for yourself. You don't need to carry pressure into your next season. You get to choose. You can actually choose to end this year with grace for what didn't happen, gratitude for what did, and the grounded knowing that you are still becoming. So let this year be the year that you stop measuring enoughness by what you've achieved and you start honoring it by how you feel, how you love, and how you lead. Until next time, keep dreaming, keep believing, and keep designing your extraordinary life one day at a time. Thank you for joining me on Her Extraordinary Life by Design. I hope you've been inspired and empowered by the incredible stories shared on this show. If you enjoyed this episode and the conversations we've had, I would greatly appreciate if you could take a moment to leave a review. Your feedback and support mean the world to me, and it will help others discover the podcast and join our empowering community. Remember to hit the subscribe button so you never miss an episode. Together, we can continue to learn from these amazing women, uncover their extraordinary journeys, and be motivated to create our own lives by design. Thank you again for tuning in. Until next time, stay empowered and keep shaping your extraordinary life one day at a time.
The holidays mean more travel, more shopping, more time online, and more personal info in more places that could expose you more to identity theft. But LifeLock monitors millions of data points per second. If your identity is stolen, our US-based restoration specialists will fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Don't face drained accounts, fraudulent loans, or financial losses alone. Get more holiday fun and less holiday worry with LifeLock. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit lifelock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
Electricast. Welcome to the Candle Power Hour. Come with us backstage behind the scenes of show business spanning over 4 decades and bringing you the experiences that can only be told by the people who were there.
Our guests are from the A-list, the F-list, and everyone in between. Get set for some of the most insane, hilarious, and inspiring stories you will ever hear.
I'm Mercury.
And I'm Diego.
Your host for the Candle Power Hour.